segment. I wanted to do this because I think we originally kind of dismissed Jango, and I thought a good academy training would be let's sit down and actually talk a little bit about what Jango can do, what the cards are that are involved in it, and all of that fancy jazz. So here is our academy training where we talk about let's look at Jango, his exhaustibility, and is it broken? Welcome back to our Academy training segment tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about Jango Fett Leader, his exhaustibility. I don't know. I kind of this was like, this is going to be good, but whatever. And then we started looking at the card pool, and there's like at least 30 cards. And so I wanted to do a short segment where we talk a little bit about this because A, I think it's important, and B, my God, like some of the cards that you play that do it are just so amazing. So to kick us off, JJ, tell us what the new Jango Fett Leader does. Let's go ahead and review with everybody so everybody knows exactly what happens.
Yeah, so the Jango Fett comes in a yellow and villainy aspect card, and his leader card reads: when a friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit, you may exhaust this leader, and if you do, exhaust that enemy unit. He deploys with 5 resources, and on his leader unit side, he is a 3 attack Underworld Bounty Hunter with 7 health, and he reads: when a friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit, you may exhaust that unit. And note that the deployed leader unit does not require you to tap the card in order for you to use that ability. So you can use that multiple times to exhaust multiple units.
All right. He comes out on 5. He's a 3/7 Underworld Bounty Hunter. So to kind of begin, the first thing that I wanted to talk a little bit about, was the fact that we had a clarification. And this is where I decided to take this a little bit more seriously. So Tyler from FFG essentially said, we have a clarification for when damage is done, right? Originally, we thought you have to attack, it would exhaust, yada, yada. They ask a couple of different questions. And Tyler says the damage is dealt by an ability, so it can't be dealt to LTP, which I don't know exactly what LTP is. But what
Lurking
I do...
TIE Phantom.
What's that? Oh.
Lurking TIE Phantom. Yeah.
I see. So the damage is dealt by an ability, so it can't be dealt to Lurking TIE Phantom. So Lurking TIE Phantom is still restricted from this. But the damage is coming from an ability on the unit, so the unit is dealing the damage. Jango plus Flamethrower works the way you want it to. He'll exhaust all the units he damage. For those of you who don't know, the Flamethrower essentially says deal 1 to 3 damage to up to 3 units, and basically, it doesn't say up to 3, but it's basically you can do it up to 3 units, and you can do 1 damage to each of them. And so essentially, Jango would be able to play that on something or on himself, and then be able to exhaust things. Now, the big deal here, right? Like, this is an automatic, right? It's a may, but it is an automatic. So when a friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit, it can exhaust. So basically, when he's on his leader side, you're only getting 1 exhaust. It can't exhaust all 3. But when it's on its unit side, it can exhaust everything. So then you have to kill Jango right away. And maybe that's going to be just the key is people just wipe out Jango and it won't matter. But I said, well, hold on a second. Well, how many units does this work with, right? Because if you think about it, if you have 1 million units on the board, it's inconsequential, right? But if you only got 2 or 3 units on the board, this becomes extremely, extremely important. And so what I wanted to do is kind of look at them in categories. So these are the ground units that are basically when played and when defeated, right? And so these are all the different units you can get. So for example, there's ISB Agent, which nobody ever plays really, right? Like, who plays that except for maybe in I play it in a Tarkin space deck sometimes. But other than that, who plays ISB Agent? But it says when you play, you may deal a damage to another unit. Here you have Death Trooper, you have Palpatine, you have Wild Rancor, right? These are all things that just trigger that do damage when you play them or when they come out, right? Then we move over to Covetous Rivals, which nobody plays except for JJ. JJ is the only person I know in history that plays this card, which is fine. It is a 6-cost 5/5 with grit, and it has a when played ability. You may deal 2 damage to something that has a bounty, right? So think about it. Because it's on attack or on played, it does that damage. It can exhaust something, and it doesn't matter. So you can play this, and so you can ambush you can ambush this out. Well, I guess you can't. You would have to have green to ambush it out. So I guess that's a little bit false because Jango's yellow. But you can either which way you could play this out, and then when this comes out, if somebody has a bounty on it, you can immediately exhaust them. So this works like now all of a sudden bounties become a little bit more impactful for this. Or Jabba's Rancor, which just does 3 damage. And if you come back up, Jango says when a friendly unit deals damage to an enemy unit. So it's not your own unit. So you don't even have to worry about Jabba's Rancor doing the 3 damage to you. It doesn't matter. You could do it to you. You're still doing the damage across the board to exhaust other thing. Bosk, when you play a card, you get to do damage. So Bosk, you play an event, and now you're exhausting something. So you can play No Good to Me Dead, and then because of Bosk, you could do 2 damage to another unit and exhaust that unit. And now you have 2 units exhausted for the cost of 2.
Wow. So good.
Dengar. Dengar is when you play an upgrade, right? So you play any bounty basically on another unit, you can exhaust it. Greedo is the when defeated, and so is this new heavy trooper, which is hilarious because I didn't realize it, but it does say when defeated, deal 1 damage to every enemy ground unit.
Yep, and it doesn't require the coordinate for that, which is even great. Yeah, that potential there, especially if you have Jango out on the board and you essentially put this in as an ambush and ends up killing something and dies in the process, you can just deal damage to everybody else that's on the board and trigger Jango's ability. Can be really strong.
Yeah. So now we move on to other units, right? So now we have ground units that are on attack. So these are all on attack units, right? So that's even crazier. So Crate Dragon with Jango. So if you haven't won the game by then, when Crate Dragon plays, you can just do damage to a character and exhaust it. Crosshair, obviously, you have to use the action for it, but Crosshair is kind of the same thing. What were you asking, JJ?
So I did have a question on the interaction with Ambush and Crate Dragon and Jango, right? So let's assume that you have Jango out and Crate Dragon, and your opponent plays an Ambush unit. You would obviously do the Crate Dragon's ability, right? Assuming that you don't just win the game by just putting damage into the base. If you damage the ambush unit with the Crate Dragon ability and it survives, can you then exhaust it and prevent the ambush?
The answer is sure, but for anything to ambush into a Crate Dragon to not kill it is pretty low. A. Yeah. And B, the difference would be is that your opponent who is in control would order the timing. So what they would then do is they would say they want to order their timing first. And so they would resolve their actions first. And if you aren't a nice person, so if you play in a planetary qualifier, then you don't have to do that. But in every other circumstance, you should never do that to somebody. That would be so mean. Be like, oh, you didn't order that correctly. Therefore, Bob, by the way, I'm not going to exhaust you. So I think that there's also nested actions, and I think we'd have to get into it in more detail, but I think with the nested actions, like there would be some timing pieces to it that would not allow it. But for the sake of argument, it's just easier to say your opponent would never order that, therefore it would never happen.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So then you have Salacious Crumb has the passive action to pick it up, but it gets to ping any ground unit. Karistan, you have Karistan, Fennec, Kit, Fifth Brother, IG-11, which nobody runs, but might be really good. Jedha Agitator, by the way, which has never really been a big thing. Even in set 1, it wasn't a thing. Could now be a thing. And then Seventh Sister, right? So Seventh Sister attacks your base, avoids your Sentinel, and then can just exhaust something. Fifth Brother, by the way, when you put a specific upgrade on Fifth Brother, Now it's even crazier. You can exhaust a whole ground board. So now we have space units. These are the space units. We have that new elite starfighter, by the way. When you defeat it, you may deal 1 damage to a unit. So now, and this is yellow. So this is an auto including Jango. Period. This is an auto. You can either kill something yourself, or if something wants to kill you because you're being aggro and they have to stop your units, you they better attack with all their other units. So there are these timing things, and this is where Unlimited is different than all these other games. In some other games, you get like a whole action phase to yourself. Unlimited is a back and forth interaction, which is why I like it a little bit better, because it feels a little bit less like I'm going to not be able to play the game, and a little bit more like I'm going to be able to play it a little bit, unless you're playing against like I didn't blue, then you don't forget to play the game. But this type of a thing, if I have this ready and you have a ready spaceship and you swing into it, I'm exhausting some other unit you have. It's just going to happen. And that one does it to any unit. Same with the Ryoki gunship. Nobody ever plays that ship, right? But now deal 1 damage to a unit or a base. So it now is a 2-cost exhaust mechanism for Jango. Interceptor, obviously that's an easy one. Devastator, the same thing. Ruthless Raider just got so good in Jango.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Just so good. The last ones we have for you is upgrades. So there's your Van Brace flamethrower, right? So on attack, you may deal 3 damage divided as you choose among enemy ground units. So basically up to 3 units. That's just stupid, by the way. That's that card. You like, if you put that card on, like, we're gonna have to have upgrade hate come out, because that card is gonna be instantly played in Jango all the time. Vader's lightsaber, Fallen lightsaber, which is the one I was talking about with Fifth Brother, because if it's a force unit, deal 1 damage to every ground unit the defending player controls. So if they have, so here you go. This stupid upgrade can exhaust every one of your clone troopers. There you go. Like, just, they're gone. They're done. They're done. So. And then Hardpoint Heavy Blaster, which I've never seen anybody ever play this card, ever. But you can now use your vehicle to do this, right? So now your vehicle, if this unit isn't attacking a base, you could deal 2 damage to a unit in the defender's arena. So now you could use this to exhaust things again. And like, you get +2/+2. I don't know. This is great for a lurking TIE Phantom, by the way.
Yeah, definitely really great for a lurking TIE Phantom, because you're essentially just starting to just deal damage to defenders in the area, and on top of that, if your opponent doesn't have enough space units uh, to strike down your lurking TIE Phantom, he's probably going to exhaust one and deal one to another, and yeah, that there goes your space team just unable to take out that lurking TIE Phantom, because you won't have a unit that can go into it and attack it. So, man, it could be really strong.
Yeah. The last ones we have is the 3 events I found. I think there might be a few more events, but these are the only ones I found. So essentially, Strike True. Obviously, you do damage because it's a friendly unit doing the damage. That's where the difference between units and events are. FFG has clarified and basically said it has to be a unit with the text on it. This is saying the unit is going to do the damage. Overwhelming Barrage is the exact same thing. Give a friendly unit this amount for the phase, then it deals damage. Headhunting is attack with 3 units, 1 at a time, and they can't attack bases for these attacks. Each bounty hunter gets +2/+2. So this one does it directly. This one is not like directly out of hand damage, right? Like the other 2 are. But this one is, hey, I've got a bunch of battle droids sitting around. Now I can play this thing and I can attack with all of them and exhaust things. Crazy, right? That's just crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Jango seems a little bit more precarious than we thought originally.
Yeah, definitely. When you start factoring all these different types of upgrades and events and space units, I mean, just with the ones that we mentioned by itself, you can pretty much create a solid Django deck with what we got here so far, and you have a lot of different options to really take advantage of Django's ability. It is very resource dependent, so you definitely need to have enough resources to consistently play units and events that can really take advantage of Django's ability. But if you do and you manage to just consistently do that, it could be really, really strong. The one thing I would probably add on to this into a deck that has Django is probably like a smuggling compartment on a couple of units or vehicle units that can ready resources so that we can play more cards that can exhaust more units. That's probably something that I would probably include in this particular deck. But yeah, you just have a lot of great cheap options that can really take advantage of Django's ability. And I think that's what makes him a menace.